Fáilte a cháirde géal, go dé mar taisih. Welcome to the Rebel Matters podcast. This is episode 79. And I've just been sitting here thinking, what are we going to do for this week's episode? Because it's due to be coming out tomorrow on the 4th of September, and this is the 3rd of September. And then I got thinking about the really wide range of topics that we've covered in the last 78 episodes, from the pretty serious and the dark episodes that often are bringing to light things that we might not necessarily hear about that often in the regular old media, or things that are quite uncomfortable to talk about, to the downright ludicrous. And I'm thinking about the chat that we had with the boys from TPM in It Takes a Village last year, which didn't happen this year, of course, because of coronavirus. And I'm also thinking about the episode that was recorded under the influence with the Kneecap boys a couple of years ago. And now that I'm thinking about it, there's another couple of episodes that are locked away, never to be released. There's one in particular, and the people who are involved in these episodes know what I'm talking about. But there was one particular chat that was recorded at about 3 o'clock in the morning, after a lock-in in the Corner House pub, and after having the crack with Fergal in there, back to the house, and the gear and all for the podcast was all already hooked up, so we just sat down and started having a chat, but it ended in pretty bizarre circumstances. That particular chat has been locked away in a filing cabinet, never to be released. But anyway, as I was saying, I was sitting there thinking, what are we going to do for this week's episode? And you know what? Isn't it such a mad time? Like, I'm looking out the window here, and there's just train just gone past there. And during the lockdown, there was no cars on the road because we were all chilling the bean, if we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. And now there's just a constant stream of traffic going in and out of town. And I suppose that we're trying to kind of get back some form of normality, and that brings with it all of its own measures of worry and anxiety. School's going back, the news, and like in particular for me personally, I've been working with the team in Ackley here in Cork to try and get that back off the ground. And also the podcast has kind of moved on a couple of levels since Vicky Langan came on as a producer the other day, a couple of weeks ago now, and we've got some class interviews lined up and chats with people in different parts of the country. But anyway, as I was saying, of the range of topics that we've covered, if you have the Rebel Matters podcast episodes categorized from dark and heavy and really serious to ludicrous, just put this episode towards the more casual and senseless side, and we'll see where it takes us. Before we get stuck into this rambling solo podcast episode, I made a wee Spotify playlist to go with this episode of the podcast. It's called Susbug, or Susbug, SOS, new word, BEIG, and you can find it on Spotify under my account, which is just Anla. I think if you type in Anla into the search bar, you'll see my account and you'll see the Susbug playlist. It's all fairly chilled out Irish music that you can just switch on if you fancy like switching off for a while. The other thing that I wanted to do before we get stuck into the chats is to give you a bit of an update on where we're at with the show at the minute. So the Rebel Matters podcast is definitely in a period of transition at the minute. We've been through periods of transition before where we had the initial few episodes that were a bit more sporadic and here and there, to having a more steady stream of episodes coming out, to the 15 or so episodes that were pumped out during the lockdown. And now Vicky is on board as a producer for the show, and we've been putting a lot of work into organising interviews and setting things up in a way that are going to help us bring the show on to the next level. And we've got some really exciting plans which we'll be able to share in the coming weeks. None of this would have been possible, of course, without the help and support of everyone on Patreon, and also people who have been sharing the show on social media and sending us messages of encouragement and support throughout the last number of weeks and months. So Gura Ced Mila Maigov, lads. It really makes a big difference. All of the support that we get, no matter what shape it takes. So what we're trying to do at the minute is kind of front load all of the work to we're trying to catch up on ourselves, really, to get a few episodes recorded. At the minute, right now, we're just going kind of week to week. Like, this episode is being recorded on Thursday and it's due out on Friday. So we're still kind of doing it week to week or whatever, but we'll have a good few interviews lined up and a few in the bag already. So it's just a matter of keeping the interviews coming in and then getting the time aside to do the edits and the production and putting them out there into the world for you to listen to. So it's an exciting time, and the podcast definitely is kind of evolving to go up to the next level, and we're kind of trying to expand the reach that we have, expand our exposure, expand the amount of people that are aware of us, and the types of people that we're able to get in contact with and interview, which for me, like, is one of the most exciting things about the podcast, is that we'll get to chat and meet to people from all walks of life and hear their stories and have the crack with them. So thank you very much for everyone who has been supporting the podcast, and myself and Vicky are both very excited to share the plans with you in the coming weeks. And for now, let's get stuck into this wee solo run and see where it brings us. Lads, I have my wee singing bowl here that, as far as universally pleasing sounds go, I think it's right up there. So I'm going to give it a wee whirl so you can just chill out for a minute. Here we go. I had that in my head to do that at the start of the show today, because earlier on this morning I was listening to a track that John Hopkins released this year, and he released it as a single called Meditations, and it's basically 21 minutes of sound bowl, kind of sound bath sounds, and there's a 4.5 minute version of it as well on Spotify. You should check it out. It's a nice way to relax, actually. So, as I was saying, don't be taking this episode too seriously, because I'm not even sure what we're going to end up talking about. But one thing that I had in mind was, I was walking into work the other day and I seen a really big billboard that was put there by Bank of Ireland, and it had a picture of a Munster rugby player on it and massive writing going across it that said, "Never stop competing." And I was just thinking to myself, what a load of bollocks. Why would you be getting people to never stop competing with each other? So that we all end up getting stuck in some kind of eternal fight or flight mode, getting more worried about whether we're beating somebody else at that particular time, or are we getting beat? And it was a nice little chat actually in last week's episode with Timmy Creed about the whole idea of competing with each other versus playing. And I was just thinking, maybe we should all fucking chip in and get a big billboard that said, lads, don't be competing with each other as much anymore. Just go in for a walk or something, or draw a nice picture. And then a couple of days later, after that, it was separately thinking about, we're flat out trying to get Ackley off the ground again after the prolonged closure. A wee train just going past the window there, and a boat actually. There's a boat going past the window one direction, and a train just went past the other direction. We're flat out trying to get Ackley off the ground again after the lockdown. And as it happens, I had the crew from My Goodness Food kind of crew in. They're anti-fascist vegan foodies who have a really nice stall in the English market and who do delicious vegan nachos. Came in for a training session actually yesterday. We had a great time. But it has been very much like going back to the drawing board and starting the business from scratch since we reopened on the 29th of June, and we've got our moon board in, redesigned the gym floor and everything like that there, and we've been really working on how we operate the facility and what the experience is like for people who come in. But I've also become kind of more aware of the like everywhere is in the same place, where everyone's trying to get businesses back up and running and get livelihoods back off the ground again, and also to rebuild some form of a routine that kind of acts as a nice sort of infrastructure for our day-to-day lives. And Ackley is a personal training business, so I suppose you would say that we're involved in the kind of health and fitness industry in some ways, even though we go to fairly great lengths to distance ourselves from the regular perceptions that most people would have about the health and fitness industry, because of the fact that it's so kind of superficial, and there are sort of typical ways in which people end up marketing themselves when it comes to the health and fitness industry. It's like encourage, like, come on, if you want to be fitter and healthier, more confident, happier, and do all these list of promises that their particular supplement or training equipment or their gym is going to offer. And really, that's probably a little bullshit as well, really, isn't it? Like, because the kind of marketing is to put that product or that place up on a pedestal as if like it's the answer to all your problems, and it's kind of perfect in many ways, and that you're going to get all these benefits just by going there. And really, like, a training method can't make you more confident as a person or happier as a person, really, like, or a product or a food supplement or anything like that there. As I was saying, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head here, so you feel free to disagree or ignore what I'm saying here, but I think that, like, our sense of inner calm comes from how well that we are connected with ourselves, and the time that we give ourselves to just chill and do things like listen to John Hopkins' sound bowl meditation for a while, look out the window, and the connection that we have with other people. And the way this whole mentality of like being in competition with each other all the time is the exact opposite of that. And the way that health is marketed to us is on the back of us feeling like an absolute bag of bollocks. Like, it's like, oh, have you been feeling like shit, have you? Come on in, sure, we'll sort you out. Oh, do you hate your body? Do you feel really fat or eating too much? Come on in, sure, we'll sort you out. And that kind of shit just does my head in so much, because really what's happening there is the person who's doing that type of marketing is playing up on the insecurities that we all have. And for the vast majority of the time, probably trying to let on that they haven't got them themselves, and we all have them. Everyone has them. That's what makes us human, really, isn't it? Like, you wake up sometimes in the morning and you feel like shit, and sometimes you don't even know why you feel like shit. Just do. Like bad sleep, or getting stressed out about stuff, getting worried about being in competition all the time, or buying the bullshit that people are feeding you, that your body isn't beautiful, or that you're not enough of the way that you are, the way that you already are, or that you should be doing something differently, or that you're a failure of some kind. And when you break it down, really, like, it comes down to, a lot of the time it can come down to, like, the reason that we feel like shit is because we're being sold something and we're buying into it. So we're taking on board what the people who are selling us shit are saying to us, and then we're feeling even worse about ourselves, so that we end up going and buying whatever shit it is that they're selling. Sometimes, anyway, I suppose that's what happens. Here, fuck's sake, that's very serious. I said I'm not going to do a serious podcast, and then I started talking about that there. 2 seconds there. I'm going to do something that's not serious. I've got a triangle here. Right. That's thick. Did you ever see when you were in school plays, when you were in primary school, and if you ended up with a triangle, it meant you were probably the least musically talented person in your class? I remember a couple of times I had the triangle in school. That's it there. But anyway, as I was saying, it's been a mad couple of weeks. There's so much stuff happening, and then there has been times in the last week or so where I've just woke up and been like, why am I feeling so shitty about myself at the minute? And it's not like I wasn't really looking outside for answers from anybody, but I just have more of a moment of acceptance that just sometimes you feel like a bag of shit, because it's part of being human. And at the same time, there are things that go on day to day, and ways that we perceive stuff that happens that definitely help to make us feel good or feel bad. And I was sitting up in bed last night, and I had one of the things that really helps me, like, not become overly stressed, is putting stuff on a schedule. I've got my schedule on my computer that ties in with the schedule in working Ackley, and with the podcast schedule as well, and I can put some personal things into it, like if I'm going to meet someone or whatever. It really helps me see that, like, the structure of the day. Whereas when I kind of fall out of the routine of doing a schedule, it's like the to-do list of things that are connected with work and that are sort of intentional things for productivity just seems like it's never ending. And then the next thing, it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night and haven't cooked any dinner, and I'm still doing something on the laptop. And the other thing that really helps me stay on top of things from a mental health point of view, well, more recently, has been doing morning pages, which is a concept that I think originates in that book, The Artist's Way. And what you do is you just wake up in the morning and write out 3 A4 pages. I've been doing that for the last month or so. And the first time I did it was last month. I was up staying with Shiva in Fecal, and we did it together, and then I just kept doing it after that. It's been really good. And over the last, since January, I've been keeping a bullet journal, a wee notebook where I can just write down notes about different things and write down the main thing that happened in that day or whatever. Anyway, I had the bullet journal last night when I was lying in bed, and I had been thinking the last couple of days, like, how come I'm feeling so stressed out? And there are some external things got to do with work and stuff like that there, I suppose, that are contributing factors to that. But then I was thinking, like, there must be things just got to do with me, like the things that actually, like steps that I can take to not be as stressed out anymore. And I was like, just go and get your notebook there and just write down things off the top of your head that you think would make you feel better. And this is them. I just thought maybe I would share them with you. But you know, don't be taken too seriously. Some of these things. Do you ever see the way sometimes you hear something and it's the right time to hear it? You read a book and it's the perfect time that book has come into your life and it has a big impact on you. The last example that I can think of that is Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, that my brother Carver gave me for my birthday back in April, and it just came in at the right time. But unbeknownst to me, I actually had a copy of that book sitting in the library in Ackley for the last like year or two before that, and I never took any notice of it because it just didn't jump out at me. And then when Carver gave it to me as a birthday present, I read it and I was like, whoa, I can't believe this book was sitting there the whole time. But it was just a case of the book coming in at the right time. And the year or two before that, when the book was sitting in the library, just must not have been the right time. So, you know, the way when you get a book and you try and force yourself to read it at the wrong time, just feels like it doesn't fit right. And sometimes people are saying stuff that you don't resonate with at the time, and then other times somebody might say something really simple, and just whatever state of mind that we're in at that particular time, it just kind of grabs you and kind of gives you a nudge in the right direction that you want to be going in. So I actually don't even know how many of these things there are. There's written in big massive letters over 2 pages. The first one was, cook some proper fucking food at least once a day, is definitely something that helps me feel better. Now, here, see, the other thing is, this isn't me telling you all what to do. This is me telling myself, like, what I should be doing to stay on top of things a wee bit. So take them or leave them as you wish. The next one was, drink 2 fucking liters of water every day. That's a no-brainer. We're basically made out of water. So just drink 2 liters of water a day. Standard. Stay hydrated. And another one, which is one that I actually never realised how powerful this actually was until, you know, like, you could be going about your day and you don't realise how powerful this is until you just do it for a couple of seconds and you're like, oh, I should have done this way sooner. And it's stay the fuck away from your phone for at least an hour a day. It sounds more simple than it is, but I've just been trying to turn my phone off at like 9 o'clock at night. And I was in the habit there of not turning it on until 10 o'clock in the morning again. I've got out of that habit again now, so maybe I'll start it again tomorrow. But one thing that I'll say has been really helpful is leaving my phone outside my bedroom and my computer as well, just so there's no screens in there. And then the next one is believe in yourself. And I think I wrote that down because it kind of ties in with that thing that self-doubt is quite a natural thing to have. It's a completely natural thing to have. And it's actually probably a good thing to have to a certain degree, because it means that you're probably pushing yourself to somewhere outside of your comfort zone. See me right now doing this podcast, I'm sitting thinking to myself, is this podcast going to be an absolute load of shit? And are people just going to stop listening to the Rebel Matters podcast because I decided to do a solo run and I'm talking through my hole? That's the self-doubt that I'm having right now. But believing in yourself is probably one of the best gifts that you can give yourself, I suppose. It has been for me anyway. The times when I've kind of acknowledged the self-doubt and went ahead and did something, and then like later on, further down the road in hindsight, you can look back and be like, I'm glad that I believed in myself there, because it worked out well and ended up doing something quite creative that I didn't think I was going to be able to do whenever I started thinking about it first. And the other one then is believe in others. which actually ties in with another one that's further down the list. We'll get to in a while, but believing in other people as well is like key for kind of maintaining some form of optimism in life. People that you live with, or that you're in some form of partnership with, or that you work with, or the people that you meet on the street, people they don't even know as well. Believing in other people for sure is something that can have a very positive impact on your life, especially in contrast to not believing in anybody else at all, which I would imagine would have a fairly negative impact on your frame of mind. And the next one that I've written down here is, for fuck's sake, keep your bedroom and kitchen clean. And this was something that I was really able to focus on during the lockdown period, because like everybody else, I was just spending all my time inside the house. Started paying more attention to the flow of energy in my bedroom and the stuff that I had in there, and getting rid of stuff that didn't serve a purpose and tidying things up. And then, like, your bedroom is where you're at your most vulnerable, really. Like, you're sleeping, you're literally defenseless in your bedroom. It's where you fall asleep, and it's where you wake up in the morning in the brand new day like a blank canvas. And having that space nice and clear, I think, really has a very positive impact on your headspace. And then the thing with the kitchen, like, if you're cooking yourself some fucking proper food once a day, then you need your kitchen to be in some form of good order. Get yourself a good knife, chopping board, some plates and stuff. Clean up after yourself so that the place is ready to go again the next time you want to cook yourself some food. All right, the next one is a long one. Next one says, don't entertain any of that bollocks from cunts that are trying to sell you some bullshit or take advantage of you. That wouldn't be a bad one for Bank of Ireland to hear with their Never Stop Competing billboard. But did you ever hear that thing back in the 50s or 60s when the kind of modern marketing was invented? And they changed the focus of advertising from selling the actual product, being like, okay, this is a bar soap, it's good bar soap, you should buy it, to selling the lifestyle, associating a particular positive kind of lifestyle with that product instead, being like, oh, if you use this soap, you'll be really beautiful like the person who's in this ad. Or if you drive this car, it's not like this car is really fast and it's got a good engine and all. It's like, if you drive this car, you'll be cruising around with the top down on a lovely sunny day with a beautiful woman by your side, and you'll be, going around looking really cool and stuff, as opposed to selling the car. I started selling the lifestyle. And that has just been extrapolated to an enormous extent to the way that we're marketed and advertised to today. And it's everywhere, literally, on your phone, on the computer, on the street, everywhere in shops. It's like trying to sell a lifestyle, trying to create some form of scarcity and a sense of what's the word? Like a sense of desire in people to obtain certain products, whether it be clothes or cars or beauty products or phones or whatever, so that people can kind of step up to this perceived superior type of lifestyle. And it is completely connected with the natural inclination that we have to doubt ourselves or to feel bad about ourselves, and playing up on those insecurities that we all have to one degree or another, not to the benefit of alleviating, not to alleviate those insecurities, but to actually bring them up, and then sell us something so that somebody else is making a profit of it. And then, do you ever notice, like, when you buy something, like, you might get a bit of short-term retail therapy, positive hormone release, and then like later on you just feel like as bad as you did before. So just keep your eyes open for that kind of shit. Don't be taking it. The next one is do some good shit for the people around you. And I was just thinking recently that like a lot of the time it's much easier to do good stuff for, it's easier to do good stuff for other people than it is for yourself. So as they say on the airplane, whenever they're giving you the wee security briefing thing with the gas mask and with oxygen mask and all, and your life jacket, to say like sort yourself out before you start trying to look after other people. And that makes perfect sense, because if you don't look after yourself first and foremost, then you're not going to be in any fit order to be trying to help other people. Having said that, it is very important that we look out for each other and check in with each other and do some nice shit for each other whenever the opportunity arises. There's a type of a mentality out there that ties in with the capitalist model of society, where we are always competing with each other, that encourages us to just look after ourselves. You can actually bring it back to the late 70s when Maggie Thatcher was in power in England, and she put a big emphasis on the privatisation of industries in England and encouraged people to not work together and to be more individuals, just look after themselves and after their own families. And of course that encourages more competition, because then you get into the thing of trying to be better than your neighbours because you feel like you're separate from them, as opposed to feeling like you're just a part of one community all looking out for each other. And then that drives up consumerism and profit for businesses. And another quite negative side effect of that mentality is that, you see, if you go down the self-help kind of route and start taking steps to better your own situation in life, that's obviously a very positive thing to do. And the thing that's very important, if you do manage to, say, work your way out of poverty or get yourself to a place of financial security, if that's what you're after, or you get yourself a good education, or end up living in an area that's, you know, that you've wanted to live in for a long time, or that hasn't got as many social problems or whatever it is that you're trying to break away from, like that you break out of even really negative family situation or whatever. I think it's very important then to realize that when that happens, you're one of the lucky ones. Like, it's not a case of, well, if I did it, then everybody else should be able to do it. It's a case of, I did it because I was fortunate enough to, come across the right people at the right time and the right material and have the motivation to do it and be able to muster the resources to get myself out of that situation. And many other people aren't as fortunate as that, and then need like a boost. You know what I mean? It's like, just because one person does it doesn't mean everyone does it. Maybe for every one person who makes it, there's like 100 people who don't make it. But if you're going by that kind of capitalist model where it's just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work hard, and if you work hard then you're going to get what you deserve, then if everyone just expects everyone to do that, then it's just going to end up being a very select few people at the top and all the rest of the people down still on the struggle. So it is important to kind of be able to look around you and do nice things for people and help people and boost them whenever you can. Even if you're not in a fortunate situation, like, sure, we should just be being nice to each other anyway in general. Everything else aside. The next one I had here for myself, my bit of self-advice from last night was don't be beating yourself up for some shit that happened in the past or any bollocks that hasn't even happened yet. And I suppose that kind of sums up the whole idea of mindfulness and trying to be present in the current moment and all that there. Like, I definitely spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about shit that's gone and happened in the past that can't be changed, or stuff that hasn't even happened in the future. I'm worrying about that as well. I suppose that probably most people do that to some degree, one degree or another. And the next one was don't be holding any fucking grudges against people, because I suppose that's just worrying about stuff that's gone in the past that can't be changed really. And also, like, sure, we all make fuck ups, like, don't we, like, some stage or another. Like, if you're going through your life and you haven't fucked up, then I don't know, like, I can't see the situation. Anyway, I've made loads of fuck ups, but when you do them, then I suppose you have to find a place where you can accept the facts of the matter and forgive yourself, and then forgive other people for the fuck ups that they've done as well. Or not even fuck ups, might not even be fuck ups, might just be things that you perceived that weren't to your liking or didn't suit you at the time, or things that other people didn't even know they were doing that you were getting annoyed about. So it's probably a good idea just to let go of those grudges, really. Talking to myself here now more than anything else. The next one I had here was take some deep ass breaths on the regular. Isn't it mad to think that we would be dead if we stopped breathing? But then, like, it's good that we breathe kind of unconsciously. But between the jigs and the reels, our breath can kind of become a bit dysfunctional just because of things that are stressing us out and tension that we're holding. So taking nice big breaths in your nose and out your mouth, or in your nose and out your nose as well, if you want to, whatever, is a way of kind of resetting your breathing. Doing that on the regular will definitely have a positive impact on your long-term breathing patterns and long-term stress levels. See, the next one is sleep like fuck. Like, sleep, you can't beat it. Often or another, we land and have some dreams, and setting your room up to help you recover from the day's madness and get ready for whatever the next day has in store for you. I mentioned it a couple of times in the podcast before, but I got myself a really nice pair of cheap blackout blinds from Argos, put them in my windows so the room is completely pitch black at night time, and a sunrise alarm clock, because I haven't been keeping my phone in my bedroom, and the sunrise alarm clock, the light comes on nice and gradually with some bird sounds and all. In the morning you wake up nice and gently, which is cracker. And the next one I had here was move your body around some way every day. Even like going for a stretch or into the gym or going for a cycle or something like that there. Can't beat it. Now, the next one is one I've definitely been guilty of in the past, and it's don't be fucking trying to do it all on your own all the time. It's just not possible. It's actually not as good crack anyway as doing things with your friends or with other people who you have a kind of common goal with. Doing stuff together, way more crack and way less stressful. I'm not saying not to do things on your own. Like, I love doing stuff on my own, spending a bit of time by myself and having a little side project that I'm just chipping away at that really nobody else knows about. But not all the time. Like, a lot of the time it's good to have help, have people to talk to, and have people to kind of go into battle with as such, as Jacks of Arna wheel, into the gap of danger together, shoulder to shoulder, is a much more exciting place to be rather than just being standing there with your cacks down by yourself. And the next one in is read books like fuck. I was actually thinking about this before, but there'll probably be a time in the future sometime whenever the way that, you know, like sports teams go into ice baths, that they just go and read books for a while, because the positive kind of physiological and psychological impact that reading a good book has on our bodies and minds is massive. For me, it just calms the mind and calms the breathing and relaxes the body. And you can also learn some good shit from books, which is why we've integrated the library into Ackley. It's like hard for me to see how you can kind of be moving in the right direction, trying to take active steps to improve your health and not include reading books into that. And it's also by default gets you away from the screens. So less screen time, the better these days. And the next one I had was go for danders. Like, you just can't beat going for a good dander. There's not many problems out there that aren't somewhat minimized by going for a good dander. And anyway, even if the problem is still there when you come back from the dander, which of course is possible, you just have a much clearer head to be able to go about sorting it out. A wee walk, bit of fresh air, happy days. And even better, which ties into the next one, is get your hole into someplace natural as often as you can. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do, really, like, is going somewhere natural, because it just resets. It resets our perspective on what our place is on the earth here. And our rightful place isn't in amongst the constant competition, marketing, advertising, and concrete that's built up to keep us in a steady state of just working and worrying all the time. So getting into nature is a good way to recalibrate, and a really great way to spend time on your own or spend time with other people and chill. And the next one that I have here is create some shit on the regular. And that's something probably that, like, do you know, like, in the way that we've kind of structured society, it's like you're creative or you're not creative, but we're all inherently creative as people. And even if you don't realize it, or if you're not practicing your creativity, doesn't mean that you haven't got it. Like, we all have creativity, and it can come out through anything that we're doing. Like, you can clean the dishes creatively, drawing a picture is creative, writing a letter can be creative. And it's been a very positive thing for me just to be able to tap into that, because it kind of gives an outlet to worry or something. I actually don't even know really what it does inside, but it does something really positive, and I feel like it's something that we all should do on a regular basis. I recently got a wee box from TK Maxx and put all arts and crafts stuff into it, so just whip it out every now and again and just do something. The last one that I was telling myself last night is don't be fucking cursing as much, but I suppose we can work on that one. And also, pretty much every one of these things I was telling myself last night has got a curse in it, but I was only kind of joking. It was just a way of emphasising the point for myself last night. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Next week's episode is going to be a guest, and I might do a bit of reading at the end of next week's episode as well. But if you're still here, thanks a million for staying tuned and for being yourself. Thanks for supporting the podcast as well. The plans that we have for the podcast now going forward are cracker. Myself and Vicky have got a good list of guests lined up and some really exciting plans for the show going forward. But anyway, Cartigail, I must run and go into Ackley here and have a bit of crack with the team in there. So I'll speak to you next week. Grameen Wygov, August Kenny Fury. Gramore.